All right, 3 o'clock chat here. What's up? Eastern Conference Finals launch today. Game 1, Indiana at Boston. Celtics favored by 13.5. That game tips at 5 on ESPN. Kristaps Porzingis will miss at least the first 2 games in the series, but there is hope he will return later in the series. The Western Conference Finals start tomorrow in Minnesota. Mavericks and Timberwolves game will tip at 5:30 on TNT. Minnesota favored by 4.5. On the diamond.
Dylan charges. He's got it in. Underhand flip to tie it first, and the ball game is over. The Mariners with a colossal comeback here in the Bronx. They beat the Yankees 5-4 to win Game 1 of this 4-game series.
Yeah, they put up 4 in the top of the ninth to top the Yankees. First pitch today from Yankee Stadium at 4:05. Wu and Schmidt on the bump. Caitlin Clark has agreed to an endorsement deal with Wilson's Sporting Goods, which will include his signature basketball. Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad coming at you right now.
A massage. A massage.
Los Angeles.
A massage.
Can I assume that was AEW Wrestling Godfather where they were cracking on the city of Portland?
Yeah, and we were so nice to them too, Chad.
I know. We invited them in. We did a nice little long-form interview, and they crack on the city.
All they did was tell the truth, right?
It's so inconsiderate for someone to go through the streets of Portland right now and criticize it for the trash or the graffiti or the tents or whatever nonsense you see downtown right now.
He did his homework. He rode Max in from the airport.
Well, if you want an education on life itself, just take a ride on Max sometime.
Mm-hmm.
No thanks. I'll continue to drive. But, no, by the way, nice to see the rain come in, too.
Oh, yeah. Great.
Luckily, I got off the course this morning right before the rain started to come in, so it was perfect. I think the forecast scared people off, and I'm all about having the course to myself so we can get through. Played in 3 hours. It's like, oh, it's so good. I get so used to the weekday golf that when you go out on a weekend now facing like a 5.5-hour round because all the dum-dums are out there not knowing what they're doing, I can't take it anymore, Godfather.
They're not dum-dums. They're just a little slower.
Yeah, a lot slower.
How did you play today?
76.
Whoa.
And I got on a heater on the back nine, and I was like, do I really want to go to work today? I just wanted to keep playing. It's like I wish the tournament that I was playing in with your wife would have been like right in that moment because it was one of those moments where everything just came together. It's like I'm feeling it with the putter, with the driver, with the short game. It was like, yeah, it's intoxicating. What can I say? I have no love life. Women do not like me. So my new mistress is golf, and I'm perfectly okay with that. It's awesome.
Women don't like you, but guys do. Is that what you're saying?
No, guys don't like me. No one likes me.
Okay.
I have no mistresses or anything. Nothing.
No friends.
No friends. I got puppy shots. He's down with me.
Yeah.
But it's great to be here. We got a big show today. Colin Amos, our good friend from Goldberg Jones, going to answer some of your questions. He's coming up at 4:20. He'll be in studio. We're going to talk about Shohei Ohtani. He is on fire right now. Any concerns about the gambling/theft being a problem that might hang over his head? He's put that to rest real quick. He is on fire right now in a number of categories, and the Dodgers have won 4 straight, and They're going to win over 100 games and run away with the NL West.
Yeah.
It's a pretty easy pathway for them.
Yeah, especially this year. It looks like the rest of the NL West is not going to be a factor.
No, your Baltimore Orioles, your team number 2 behind the Braves, playing pretty good baseball, Godfather.
Yeah, they are. They might be my team number 1 now, the way the Braves are going. I can be a front runner. I'm allowed.
Yeah, you are. You have no reason to devote yourself to someone that's going to just give you nothing but heartburn.
Yeah, why should I waste time on losers?
I agree. I have learned this as time has gone on. Why should I be hopelessly devoted with just blind faith if someone continues to screw me over? You know, the Broncos are getting close.
I was going to say, you swore them off during the middle of last season. I recall. I'm done. I'm done with these guys.
Well, that's what that 70-point game that Miami put up on them will do to you.
Yeah.
But then Russ had a nice little resurgence. I had fun last year, but I'm all in on Bo now. I mean, the more I read about Bo, the more I don't hear about Bo. I love Bo.
Yeah.
He's handling his business right now, and I like that. Now it's just a matter of going out there and making plays. But he is a non-noise maker. He's not going to make headlines. He's not going to say dumb things. He's just going to continue to go out there and handle business.
I don't think he'll get arrested.
No, I doubt it.
I doubt it, too.
Well, Scotty Scheffler got arrested, and
So
if he can get arrested, Bo Nix can get arrested.
Yeah,
Bo Nix might accidentally pull through an intersection that's been blocked off, and before you know it, the cop pulls him out and throws him up against the car, and he's like, oh, this is the Denver Broncos quarterback.
Put the cuffs on him.
I got to give you props, man. You and I actually do a pretty good job of helping each other out with recommendations.
Yeah.
And we're going to get to one of the recommendations you gave me because I need some of your input coming up at 4:45. But I told you about this place up there at the fish market in Seattle, Pike Place Market. My daughter a few years ago went up there, and she always likes to bring me back a treat. And she brought me back this bag of mixed nuts. And I took a couple of bites, and I was like, is this mixed nuts or some form of crack? Because it was unbelievably delicious.
Yes.
And so every year that she goes up during spring break and visits the Mariners, she always brings me back nuts. Well, this year I finally did some further investigation. The location is called Pike Place Nuts. It's right up there at the market. And then upon further investigation, you can order online and they deliver. And they're awesome. And I love nuts, and I know a lot of people love nuts, but these are the best I've had. They're a local, run business, which is really cool. And you're like, oh, let me check that out. So you pulled it up and you ordered yourself some peanuts, and you brought a bag of those in the studio today. And I took a couple of bites, and I had to back away. I'm like, dude, you got to get those away from me because I'll eat the whole bag right now. They're good. Are they not delicious?
Yeah. Unfortunately, peanuts are one of those things that you can overdo real quickly. And I'm trying very hard not to do that. But like you said, you just can't stop putting your hand in that bag. Yeah. And I have like a 1-pound bag here. I don't need to go through that bag today. That's not what I'm here for.
Oh, they're so good. The mixed nuts are my favorite. The peanuts that you have are right up there in the top 5. And I had some of yours today, and they're delicious. And then I got my buddy Luke, my workout partner. He likes pumpkin seeds. Yeah. So I got him the chili lime pumpkin seeds, which are spectacular. So every item I've had from Pike Place Nuts, and again, this is not an advertisement. They're not paying me to say this. Right. I just like their nuts.
Yeah.
So if you're up there in Seattle, swing by and check them out, or just order yourself some nuts. I love it, man.
Yeah, you get them online. It's a pretty quick process, actually.
I grew up, my Nana always bought Planters or one of the jarred nuts, which is fine. Mm-hmm. But, as you investigate and you get out, these people that make stuff with their hands locally, it's pretty nice. Pretty good. So I'm glad you like them. It makes me happy.
No, it was a good call. I appreciated the tip on that. And I would imagine there'll be more nuts headed my way here very soon.
All right. Do you need me to call a tow truck or something? Because you had yourself quite the night, Godfather. He sends me a note, and he's like, I didn't really sleep last night. Got like 3 hours. My big toe is in a lot of pain right now. What's going on with your toe, your big toe?
Yeah, for no apparent reason, there seems to be some infection. At least the guy saw today said, 50-50 chance it's an infection or it's gout. Huh. So we're going to go with the antibiotics first and assume that it's an infection because of the location of the pain, I think. And so we're going to see how that works. If it doesn't work, then it's gout. Got to go back and get some steroids.
Have you ever wondered how something that seems so insignificant on your body can create so much pain? I've had to do self-surgery before. We get like one of those ingrown toenails,
Yeah.
and I yank it out. That's a painful process. I don't recommend it. And the inevitable stub your toe on the coffee table.
Oh, that's brutal.
It can put a grown man on his knees in a heartbeat. But the toe, and the problem is because, especially when you're playing golf and you got the golf shoes on, you're walking around a lot. I have a tendency, my toenails grow really fast. And if I don't trim them on a regular basis or I forget, they get jammed up in my shoes. And I looked like Edward Scissorfoots on Sunday, so I had to go through and trim my toenails because they get jammed up and I can get those ingrown nails. It's painful, man. I hate it.
Yeah, you can't let the nails get so long that when you're trying to put on a pair of socks that
cut
they
through 'em.
snag. That's not a good deal. It's not. But this was bad. I was trying to. It was. The dang toe woke me up at about, I'd slept about an hour and a half. It woke me up.
Yeah.
It was kind of throbbing a little bit. And I thought, oh, gosh. I thought maybe I just stubbed my toe or kind of accidentally sprained it somehow. But this is different. So I got up and I looked for stuff, and there was nothing I could do about it. So I kept trying to sleep, and I finally realized after hours of not sleeping and watching all kinds of goofy stuff on television that I needed to get the sheets and the comforter off my toe.
Less pressure.
Yeah, because just touching it hurt like crazy.
Dude, it's funny you mentioned that. The first thing I do when I get into a hotel, I don't know why they do it, but they tuck the sheets and
in.
everything in so freaking tight that if you get under the covers, I don't like the pressure pressing up against my feet. I can't go to sleep like that. So the first thing I do is I go down to the end of the bed on the side I'm going to sleep on, and I yank the covers out so that when I get under the covers later in the night, that my feet can rest peacefully. That pressure drives me insane, even without a sore toe.
Yeah, and the problem with this is, I don't have the sheets tight down there. It's just even touching it barely with the sheet was painful. So I finally figured out, let me try sticking that foot outside the covers and sleeping that way. And then I got maybe 3 hours tops of sleep last night. So, if I drift off sometime during the show today, you'll understand the reason for it.
All right. So you and I both have the same issue right now. You had the handyman that came out today. Is that right? Because I've got a handyman that's going to show up here in a couple of days. What's going on at your crib?
Well, here's the deal. We got several things that we need done by a handyman, and we've been putting them off because we lost our handyman. So,
Would he die?
No, he got a real job, so he's not able to devote time to ours, which was close to a real job.
Based on how much you were paying him.
Yeah, and we had a lot of things to do in that house when we moved into it. But Chad, we actually got a crib for the grandbaby.
Oh yeah,
and it was bought from a place that didn't put it together.
Yeah, it requires assembly.
So what we had to do is hire somebody to come in and put it together because I didn't dare do that. Cost too much for me to mess around trying to put it together. He came in, put it together very quickly, and then I walked him around to some of our other projects, and he's going to give me an estimate on what those will cost. So it was a very fruitful day. He gave me a small window, showed up during the window, very polite, very, very quickly did his work. It was a good experience.
Yeah, I've got the dreaded window coming up tomorrow. I'm going to get a phone call. The refrigerator's got issues with the ice machine.
Oh, gosh.
And what they're going to do is call and give me a window. And you know how the windows work. It's like a 4-hour window or whatever it is. And who's got 4 hours to sit around and then wait for them to show up on the back end of the window?
Hey, on a refrigerator, you should check YouTube. You're on there all the time anyway.
Yeah.
I actually fixed one of the problems with our ice machine off of YouTube. I did.
I can guarantee you I could try from now until the end of time, watch a million YouTube videos on how to fix the refrigerator, and it will go just the way the fitted sheet did. Wadded up and jammed in the closet.
Sometimes they're real small little fixes.
You don't know how dumb I am.
Yes, I do.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. When we come back, the Dodgers are on fire. Should Shohei Ohtani consider just focusing on being a hitter and just walk away from the pitching? We'll deal with that next. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad.
2 balls, 1 strike. Ciccone to Freeman, high in the air. Center field, hit deep. Carroll's at the wall. It is gone! A grand swing for Freddie Freeman.
I still can't believe the Braves gave up Freddie Freeman, Godfather. That's insanity.
Total insanity.
Like one of the all-time guys that you want in your clubhouse. He can do everything on the diamond. We'll just let him go to the Dodgers.
Yeah. Lifetime guy in your organization.
Yeah.
He should have retired there. He moved there. He was a big part of the community. Yeah, let's just go get another first baseman. Might play for a few grand more less, but,
Well, the Dodgers, it's not a surprise. They won 4 straight. They're on fire. They're going to run away with their division. They'll win well over 100 games this year. But the real story has been Shohei Ohtani. Not surprising that he's playing great baseball, but we wondered with the distractions to start the year how that might have an impact on him. Take a listen to these numbers right now for Shohei. Batting average, .353, number 1 in the majors. Home runs, 13, tied for 4th. He's got 67 hits. That's number 1. 33 RBIs, number 13 in the majors. He's got 11 stolen bases. He's 9th and number 1 in OPS at 1.077. So the offense has been there. He's been dynamic. I think the bigger question here for Shohei is, he had the, Tommy John surgery, so he's rehabbing from that.
Yeah.
Should he consider walking away from pitching and just focus on being the best hitter he can be, which is obvious he can be one of the all-timers?
I think, first of all, I don't think it's going to happen because he's always wanted to do both. And part of the condition of coming over here and signing originally was it had to be a team that would let him do both.
Yeah.
I doubt he's let go of that, but I think it's definitely something that an organization would talk about because what they're seeing is a unique ability with the bat and ball. He's got great bat-to-ball skills. He can hit, and he can hit with power. He's 11 for 11 in stolen bases this year. He can do everything at the plate for you. Now, when he comes back to pitch, I think it's only fair to think that there'll be some drop-off with his hitting skills. Now, in the past, he's pitched well enough that you overlook that a little bit because he adds value with his pitching. Now, can that continue? I'm not so sure over time that he can keep the hitting and pitching skills up there where they are without some drop-off. So I think if that's the case, then you want him in the lineup every day as a hitter. Having him pitch, and he was on about a once-a-week schedule with the Angels. They didn't want to over-pitch him.
Yeah.
So having him pitch once a week as compared to having him in that offensive lineup every day, that's a big difference.
No question about it. It's really one of those cases where you're right. The pitching would probably take away from the hitting, and the constant hitting would probably take away from his pitching on some level. It's like, what's that saying? Jack of all trades, master of none.
Right. Yeah, and Chad, this is the first year where he's strictly been a hitter. His offensive stats are way better than they've ever been.
Yeah, because he's got one thing to focus on.
Yes, and he's always been a good hitter, but not what we're seeing now. And he's been incredible this year.
Well, how would you have that conversation with Shohei where you wanted to suggest that maybe he focus on one thing without offending him? I mean, do you do it and say, hey, you're welcome to do whatever you want, but here's the numbers, here's what we're seeing, and here's some things to think about. Is that how you do it, or how do you approach Shohei, who's obviously great at everything? How do you start that conversation?
Well, I think you start it by saying, in a friendly manner, that you're just talking about it with him. In no way will you ever make that decision. The decision is his to make.
Yeah,
it really is. You can't decide that for him, and he's not going to let you. So if he's not going to let you, then you want to make sure to point out that you're not trying to make him do it. So that's the way you start it. But then I think it's a reasonable discussion, and he would understand, I think, look, we need you more behind the play or at the plate than we do on the mound. Now, this year's an unusual year for the Dodgers because their pitching's not great. It's usually great, and my guess is next year it'll be great again because they still have so many guys on the injured list. When they all come back, their pitching is going to be real solid.
Well, you made a good point, too. Walker Buehler, he had a good outing in his most recent performance. But when you come off the Tommy John, I mean, it takes time, right?
Yeah, it might take a year. Yeah.
Before you round into form and become something special.
Yeah, you're out for a year with a surgery, but then it might be another year before you're back to where you were.
Well, selfishly, I want Ohtani to pitch because how often do we get a chance to see someone like that? He's a freak, right?
Yeah.
But what did Babe Ruth, who was also great at both things, pitching and hitting, what did he think about pitching?
Well, it's funny because he came up as a pitcher and had great success. Then, because pitchers hit in those days, it's not like they were DHing for him back in in 1917 or whatever year he came up.
They weren't the National League pitchers trying to hit like we see in today's game before the change.
Right.
Back then they did it.
Yes. And so they found out right away he could hit. And he found it out too. He wasn't quite so sure. But as soon as he found out he could hit and play every day, that changed everything. And he said, I don't want to pitch anymore. And they used him sparingly over the next year or two before he just went to a full-time outfielder and was just strictly a hitter. And it made sense in that era, I think. But it was also his choice. They left it up to him. And, those are the years too, Chad, where if you were the starting pitcher, you went 9 innings. 8, unless you were just getting hammered, they wouldn't take you out.
Yeah.
So it was a lot more stress in those days than it is now, where starting pitchers go 5 or 6 innings and they yank them out of the game.
I guess what I really want to see is, like next year, I want to see Ohtani in a playoff series. What type of impact could he have throughout the course of the series on the mound and behind the plate? It'd be pretty awesome to see him dominate a start and then also become a key member at the plate to deliver some big-time hits and produce the offense. Like, that's fun to me because we don't see freak athletes like him very often, guys who can do a little bit of everything and are great at so many different things.
Well, it's important to remember, too, that's why he got so much money, is that he could do both. They paid him as a pitcher and a hitter. And so the Dodgers I think their first choice is to have him do both. But I think it's just it's a worthy conversation to have about the ramifications of doing both. You'd hate to see him drop way off as a hitter because that's a pretty big deal.
Or could it be a case where he continues to pitch for the time being, but then at a certain point, as he ages, then you can transition into that DH role and just focus on being a big-time hitter, right?
Yeah, I think so, Chad. And I think the drop-off is most likely to be slight. It's not likely to be just falling off a cliff kind of drop-off. He'll show you probably that he's not throwing the ball as well as he once did. And at that point, you talk about it. But I think, too, he's the kind of player that would say, okay, if I'm not pitching anymore, I'd like to play some right field, left field, center field, whatever. And because he had a great arm in the outfield, and he still would most likely. And guys, a lot of guys don't like DHing. They'd rather play all the time.
Well, it's probably boring for a player of that caliber.
I can't imagine doing it. You're just knocking around the clubhouse and the dugout half the game. A lot of those guys go back in the cage under the stands and hit. And don't even monitor what's going on the field sometimes.
I'd go back in the clubhouse and watch YouTube and tell the
of course you would watch some cartoons.
Yeah, I would. I watch some cartoons or some music videos and tell the clubby, hey, let me know when I'm getting close, when my AB's coming up.
You can find some Looney Tunes on, I'm sure.
I like Looney Tunes.
Yeah, I know you do.
All right, let's shift to basketball. I'm having a hard time getting excited about the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
I'm not a Knicks fan, but I was buying into the idea that Boston and New York would be kind of fun to watch because two big markets, two passionate fan bases, a lot of annoying people, and Tom Thibodeau getting a chance to go out there and coach against a team that he once worked for when he was under Doc as the defensive guy. That would have been a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. We're not going to get that. We get Indiana, so we get like some leftovers, and then Boston, a team that's coasted into the Eastern Conference Finals. Kristaps Porzingis will miss at least the first 2 games. There's hope now that he's going to come back sometime during the series. Let's go ahead and start with this. how big of a coaching edge does Indiana have here between Rick Carlisle and Missoula, Montana? Is it pretty big?
Just the fact that you're still calling him Missoula, Montana tells you about the coaching edge. Yeah, that's a big coaching edge. I don't know if it's as big as the talent gap, though.
Yeah.
That's the problem for Indiana.
Yeah, the talent gap outweighs the coaching edge, I would guess.
Almost every time, especially in the NBA. Maybe not so much in college where coaches have so much more control over what their teams do. In the NBA, talent's going to win almost every time.
Well, maybe the way this series could get interesting, if Boston gives up the courtesy home game like they seem to do in every single series they play.
Yeah.
Indiana's been unbeatable at home. They've been terrific in their building. So maybe you can have a situation where Boston gives up a game and then Indiana can extend the series because of how well they play at home. I mean, that's kind of what I'm looking at, but they're so bad defensively. I just don't know how they're going to be able to match up with the onslaught of talent they're going to see out there on the floor.
Yeah, and they made strides during the Knicks series, I think, but it was really hard to tell because the Knicks didn't have the same players out there that they had to guard, and so anything you saw statistically didn't really matter much because the Knicks were left, by the time you got to game 5 or 6, they were left with, less than a NBA playoff roster that they were trying to compete with.
What do you think about this backup point guard battle between Boston and Indiana?
I like it, Chad, because McConnell's had a great playoff, and Pritchard has had a great season overall, playoffs and regular season. He's been terrific. He's taken another step forward. Those two guys will go at each other. They're both aggressive, and they're both responsible when they come into the game for changing the tempo. They're both going to push the ball. They're both going to get their teams running a little more. And that's going to be fun to see.
It's always interesting to look at a team that gets to the conference finals and try to figure out the pieces they put together to make it happen. But looking back at it now, what do you think about Indiana going out and getting Sabonis and then turning him into Tyrese Halliburton, who's been a terrific player for them?
Yeah, that's a great move. They flipped Sabonis. They got Sabonis in the Paul George deal. Then they flipped him for Halliburton, who was in Sacramento, and that was obviously a really good deal for them. Now, I'm still not sure we're going to see the best Halliburton in the playoffs because he's obviously banged up. But he's starting to play better against the Knicks, and we'll see what he brings. But they need him at his absolute best. They got Miles Turner's like one of the best three-point shooters in the playoffs so far. Will he continue to hit from the outside? Don't know, but he's going to have to.
Miles Turner, he's not like Chet Holmgren or Wemby, but Turner's got the skill set that fits really nicely in today's game because he's a big who can defend the pick and roll, but he can also shoot the three.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and Rick Carlisle is just the kind of coach to take advantage of that. Before Rick got there were every year trade rumors about Turner because people weren't sure he fit and all that. But he wasn't being used correctly. He's got to shoot a lot of threes. I know he's 7 feet tall. He's got to shoot a lot of threes. That's his skill. That's what he does offensively. Don't try to put him in there by the basket. Let him shoot his threes because that's a weapon.
I'll tell you one thing I don't want to see. Boston, when they execute and run their actions the way they're supposed to, they can be a fun team to watch. But
yes.
But what we do see happen a lot, especially with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, is this approach at the end of games where their movement stops and then they become ISO.
Yeah, for sure, Chad.
That could be a problem for them in the series, couldn't it?
It's been a problem for them all year. That's why they've had trouble in close games. That's why they have trouble in home games because they do fall into that. And their problem is both those guys are ISO players. That's kind of their skill. It's one-on-one, and they've done a pretty good job over the last few years of balancing that out between one guy and the other guy. But that is something I think they always worry about becoming a problem. And there was a school of thought here a couple of years ago where they got to get rid of Brown. And people thought they would rather than give him the extension, but they did extended him. So they extended him. So that was that in that argument. But, yeah, that's a problem for them, and they got to make sure it doesn't happen.
Well, how do you see this going down? To me, it feels like a 5-game series.
Yeah. I think so too, Chad. I think Boston can't seem to sweep anybody last year or this year. They'll give up a game
They should,
somehow.
but they won't.
No, they get arrogant and they get too sure of themselves, and they got to come out and get those first 2 games, which they never seem to do. They always seem to lose the second game at home, then go on the road and just clobber the other team when they get on the road.
Teams like that frustrate me when you know that they've got the talent and the ability to dominate, but they just lose concentration or focus.
Don't you think
They
teams
get
like they're hard to take seriously as a contender when they play that way, right?
Well, all I know is they better get their game face on now, because one of the 2 teams are going to face either Dallas or Minnesota. Those 2 teams are, they're defending.
Yeah.
They're playing physical, and they're playing well right now. So whatever team they match up with, especially if you walk into the finals taking on Minnesota after the cakewalk they've gotten in the Eastern Conference, and you got the Timberwolves busting you in the face, that's going to be an eye-opening experience.
Yeah, because let's face it, Boston hasn't been pushed at all, and they've faced teams without their best players. It's been a real easy path so far for them. And I have a feeling it's going to continue to be an easy path. I just can't see Indiana putting up that big of an effort.
No. Rick Carlisle will complain about the calls and start whining about small markets again.
Well, he might have a reason to, but probably shouldn't complain as much as he does.
What do you think Adam Silver wants now? He definitely wants Boston in the finals.
Boston, Dallas, because, you know how Doncic, he'll bring viewers to the TV sets.
Yeah, he's prime time.
Yeah.
He's a big-time player. And Kyrie's got a big fan base, too.
Yeah. And Chad, I thought that Minnesota, when I first looked at it, Minnesota's got a better team. But when you have Kyrie and Luka on the same team, both of those guys can take over a game and beat you almost by themselves.
No question about it.
So you've got to be mindful of that. You got to do a job on both of them.
That's
and
right.
That's not easy.
And Minnesota at times, even though they got Ant, there's times where they're looking for somebody else to step up and make shots.
Yeah.
They've got a boatload of defenders, but, the offense at times against the Nuggets was a problem.
Yeah.
Fortunately for them, they got some other guys to step up to make shots in that Game 7. All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the show. When we come back, the Lakers still looking for a head coach.
Oh, of course.
What did Bill Plaschke say about LeBron and potentially J.J. Redick?
Well, he said it was a marriage made in Looney Tunes.
All right, we'll talk about why the Lakers haven't hired a coach. It appears, or it looks like it might be J.J. Redick. Why is it taking us so long? We'll dig into that next. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. All right, Rip City Drive. Telephone number 503-248-0620. We'll get to J.J. Redick, the Lakers, and LeBron here in a moment, but let's go out to Carlton. I'm a big fan of Carlton. It's beautiful out there, Yamhill, Carlton. Eric wants to jump on board. Eric, appreciate the phone call. What is on your mind? Welcome to the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad.
Hey, I'm one of those obnoxious Knicks fans you were just talking about.
We appreciate that.
I had a question about that, and screw the Pacers and the Celtics. I can't stand either of those teams. So my heart is just broken, and I don't want to watch the Eastern Conference Finals. But I got my sons here, and we love Luka, and Kyrie is fascinating in the Kanye kind of way. So he's a fun watch, and so we're pulling for the Mavs. And I wanted to ask you what you think the Knicks should do besides get healthy, and also just blame you for an addiction that you guys started talking about snacks. And
yes.
I'm going to try these nuts, but I was, we're pretty newly West Coast, and you guys were talking before the Super Bowl that the ultimate snack was Dots Southwest season, and we didn't have those on the East Coast, and now we just consume them by the bag. And, man,
Dude.
Those things are addictive. You called those nuts. You said they were crack-like. Well, Dots, they hooked us.
Yeah. Oh, Dot is a beautiful lady, and she came up with a beautiful concept, Eric. A couple of different things here. One, Dots pretzels are phenomenal. The original and the Southwest seasoning, incredible. Yeah. I got my dad hooked on Dots. He can't believe how good they are. With the Knicks, what we believe, they're in a great position because they got money to spend, and they got some movable pieces on the roster. They
have a lot of draft picks, too.
Yeah. They very well could go big game hunting. Now, we're going to get to this a little bit later in the show, but in regards to the Knicks, you got to make sure that you have a marriage between coach and front office. Don't get Thibodeau young players that he's not going to play.
Exactly.
Get him quality bench guys that he trusts so that he can take some of the load off the starters, right?
And be careful with big names. They're talking guys like Durant, Paul George, those kind of guys. Just keep in mind now, you don't want to wreck that culture that you've worked so hard to develop.
And they have a great culture.
Yes. And are these guys going to come in and want to practice long? Are they going to want to play 42 minutes a night? Are they going to want to go through all the things that Josh Hart, Jalen Brunson, all these other guys do with the Knicks? I'm not so sure. And one guy like that, if he's a good enough player, makes enough money, can just wreck your culture.
No question. Eric, I can't believe I'm saying this, but for the first time in a long time, I believe that the future for your Knicks is bright. They're in a good position right now.
Sure.
Thibodeau's got the guy's ears, and like Dwight said, they've got the culture where they work really hard. Now it's just a matter of Thibodeau finding enough players on the roster that he can trust, so throughout the course of the regular season, he's not running his guys into the ground.
I think it'd be better, Chad, like we've seen with other contending teams, bring in veterans now. You have young players already. If you get a chance to draft a can't-miss rookie, go ahead. But for the most part, they don't need developmental projects right now. Yeah. Don't put that guy on the bench that's going to play 2 years from now. You got to bring Thibodeau guys he can trust, and that means veterans.
All right, when it comes to snacks, Dots pretzels are phenomenal. I always have a bag of Dots, either the honey mustard, the original, or the Southwest seasoning at home, ready to eat a few. And I love it because they're low calorie, so I can count on my 18 pretzels. I got a serving. They're fabulous. Like, what is your go-to snack that you always have around? Is it pretzels? Is it nuts? Like, what is your deal?
I like the nuts, but skinny popcorn. Yeah, that's
I got a
good.
question about that.
Yeah.
Like, my boy Steve and I, we were eating that because he had some at his crib last time I was down there. Can someone please explain to me, how do they take bagged popcorn and make it taste that good? I don't understand.
Know. It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, and it's not just covered in butter either.
No. It's really good, and it doesn't taste stale. You would think that a bagged popcorn wouldn't taste like that, but it tastes great.
Yeah. Yeah, we get a little bit of that.
Yeah, the Skinny Pop, that's a great product. I'm a big fan.
I'm glad I hit something that you like.
Hey, give out a high five to Skinny Pop, even though it's not 5:45 yet. I feel like Skinny Pop deserves a high five for their efforts. Thank you. I still think what my son does is high level. Hey, Dad, I want to go to the movie theater. What movie do you want to see? I don't want a movie. I just want to pick up some popcorn. He walks in and grabs a big tub, and then he takes it home with him.
They'll let him in just to use the concession stand?
Yeah, he walks in. He's like, I don't have a ticket. I just want to buy some popcorn. They let him in there, and then he takes it home. And I think my favorite thing to watch my son do is eat popcorn. He eats it like his mouth turns into like a Hoover, like a vacuum, and he just sucks it down like an animal. He's like, blah, 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 blah.
Does he take big handfuls?
Yeah, and he just shovels it into his pie hole.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it. He loves going to movies with me. I don't think he gives a rip about the movie. It's just like he wants his soda and his giant thing of popcorn, and he just crushes it.
It's pretty much, I mean, when you go into a movie, you got to grab the popcorn and the soda, don't you?
Well, I don't.
You don't want to get up during the movie and go get it. And sometime during the movie, you're going to need it.
I'm that guy that sneaks in my nutrition bar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just one of those guys. I love it, too, because I've seen people pull out, like, bags of McDonald's or their fast food.
Oh, God.
I love, dude, there's times where I wish I was like an old lady, like a nana, because they have the gigantic purse. It's like a freaking suitcase.
Mm-hmm.
You can fit everything in there. And I've seen a nana just open up the purse and just pull her bag of McDonald's out. And it's like she's getting it all ready for her and her husband. They're just watching the movie. It's like, come on. It's crazy.
The whole theater smells her quarter pounder with cheese.
I still think the aroma that you get when you walk in through the doors of the theater and you smell that popcorn and you hear it going as it's popping.
Yeah.
Now, that's right up there near the top. That smell, if I only had that smell for the rest of my life, I'd be cool with that. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But Skinny Pop is good.
Yeah.
Props to those people. I don't know how they do that. Dots is good. That lady Dot. It was Barney from Portland State, the head coach of Portland State.
He used to bring it all the time, right?
Yeah.
When he
So
came
if you want to blame anyone, Eric, Barney is the source of the problem because he got an endorsement deal. When you're the head coach of Portland State, you don't get deals with massive companies. You get connected with people like Dot, who created this massive pretzel company. I think they sold to one of the big makers. So she made a fortune off of pretzels. Only in America, man, can you come up with a pretzel concept, sell the idea, and just make millions.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. Yeah, so Barney would bring him in. He would come in studio for his weekly interview during the football season, and he would have a couple of bags of, like, Dot's pretzels. And I was like, give them to me, please. And then I would take some home for myself. My dad would want some. It was the greatest.
Yeah.
Love that kind of stuff. What this has to do with J.J. Redick and LeBron, I have no idea. But,
yeah, we kind of got off topic a little bit there, didn't we?
But Pike Street Nuts. Pike Street Nuts, that's what Dwight ordered because he's smart, and that's what my daughter got me hooked on. You can order them, have them delivered to your crib now. It's genius. All right, we'll
Very
keep things
fresh,
rolling.
too, by the way.
Fresh nuts.
Yes.
All right, we've got to get to the interesting relationship between Mike Malone and the Denver Nuggets. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to get into how coaches prep for the playoffs. I want to get into the mind of Dwight, but we'll get to J.J. Redick and LeBron James. LeBron, he and his crew, he comes off like such a phony, and we'll get into that as well. Also, coming up next, Billy Currington tickets. We have a pair of tickets to see Billy Currington. God is great, beer is good, and people are crazy. He's coming to the Clark County Fairgrounds August 2nd. We'll give away a pair for Billy Currington coming up next. Hey, what's up, my friends? It's now 4 o'clock. Chad here. Eastern Conference Finals launch today. Game 1, Indiana and Boston. The Celtics are favored by 13.5. Game tips off at 5 on ESPN. Kristaps Porzingis will miss at least the first 2 games, but there is hope he will return later in the series. Western Conference Finals will start tomorrow in Minnesota. Mavericks and Timberwolves game tips at 5:30 on TNT. Minnesota favored by 4.5. The Mariners put up 4 in the top of the 9th last night and beat the Yankees 5-4. The M's have a 2-game lead in the AL West. First pitch today from Yankee Stadium is at 4:05. Wu and Schmidt is your pitching matchup. And according to Joe Bruno, an 11-year-old was waiting outside the Spectrum Center after the Hornets' Purple and Teal Day. He wanted an autograph from LaMelo Ball. His mom says Ball didn't sign anything. He sped off in his car and drove over the 11-year-old's foot, breaking it. A lawsuit has been filed. Oh, Godfather.
I should get on your case for laughing while you read it, but I read it to you and I had to laugh too. There's nothing funny about running over an 11-year-old kid's foot, but there's just something about that story that, I mean, are you kidding me? You refused the kid's autograph and then you ran over his foot. I hope they take the guy for $5 million. God. Kidding me?
Dwight read it and started laughing his ass off. And look,
wow.
I feel bad for the 11-year-old boy that had his foot broken. But you ever read a headline? You're like, wait, what? There's no way that happened.
That's impossible.
Let me see if I can read it again without doctor. Let me see if I can read this again from Joe Bruno. That sounds like a guy you don't want to tangle with.
Yeah.
Joe Bruno reporting, an 11-year-old was waiting outside the Spectrum Center after the Hornets' Purple and Teal Day. He wanted an autograph from LaMelo Ball. His mom says Ball didn't sign anything. He sped off in his car and drove over the 11-year-old's foot, breaking it.
I'm so sorry.
Like, how does that go down? Hey, man, can I have your autograph? I said no, and it like peels out on his foot or something.
Right out of there, yeah.
But, you know, I'm seriously, I want to know, like, I've never had someone run over my foot, but if, like, you ran over my foot in your car right now, like, would it hurt?
Let's go outside and give it a shot. I'd love to. I think we need a field test on this.
Or would it just depend on what type of shoes you're wearing?
Well, I don't know if there's any kind of shoe that would protect you against my car.
But seriously, is there any type of, if there's any family you could choose to get a big lawsuit dropped on, isn't this the one, the Ball family?
Yeah. They may have all spent all their money anyway, though.
And you know, one thing I don't understand, too, explain this to me. Why is it that these athletes or stars or whoever have such an issue with signing an autograph? Like, seriously, I've never understood that. Why is that a problem for you? Here, can you sign my shirt for me? Can you sign this piece of paper for me? I mean, like, especially if we're talking about an 11-year-old boy, you can't do it? You just drive over his foot?
It's really not that much of a strain to sign your name. I don't see why guys don't do. I never have understood that. Why wouldn't you sign an autograph? Why not?
What's the problem?
The only thing I can think of is, you arrive at 2:00 in the morning at your hotel, and there's all those professional autograph guys standing outside waiting for you.
Those guys are dweebs, though.
Yeah, they're just going to turn around and try to sell it on eBay. So, no, I get that. 11-year-old kid, though?
I see those guys circling around everywhere there might be an athlete. Like even on, I think it was exit interview day.
Yeah.
I was over there at Tualatin at the Blazers practice facility right down I-5. And when I came out after the press conference, there were not kids, but there were some of those
dealers.
Yeah, the dweebs and their toolboxes. Like those guys haven't scored in like 50 years. They probably never scored. Like they don't have an ability to communicate with the opposite sex because they're like middle-aged dudes standing out there with their sheets of ball cards hoping a player comes out to get it signed. I can understand if you want to just give them the I'm not saying you should drive over their foot.
I was going to say. But keep in mind now, if you don't want to sign the autographs, don't run over the kid's foot. It's not a good move. Could cost you a lot of money in court. Can you imagine taking that case into court? They're having no trouble finding an attorney to take that case.
The picture shows the kid on crutches with a cast over his foot.
Looking rather sullen.
Oh, that's too much. Good job, LaMelo.
Oh, gosh.
He gave him a teal and purple foot for asking for an autograph on Purple and Teal Day. That's an all-timer right there. Can I have your autograph? No. And I told you no. I'm going to run over your foot now. That's a classic.
Oh, man.
503-248-0620. Let's go out to David in Astoria. Are we big in Astoria?
Oh, sure. Big everywhere.
I like it out in Astoria. David, welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Fire away.
So here's the deal. I'm old. Okay, maybe not quite as old as the Godfather, but I was around for the Blazers' first championship, and I'm wondering. I don't have a lot of years left to get ready for the next one, so I'm looking for an update, a summary, a status report. Where do we stand? Are we on the right track? Have we set ourselves up well with players, with salary cap? Have we got the right coach? Have we got the right GM? Give me the overview.
All right, appreciate that, David. What is the overview? It's still incomplete, right?
It is. I would say they're not close enough yet to worry about who's coaching the team because it's really not a factor if you're going to continue to tank for another year or two.
Yeah, so, David, basically the situation with the coach, he'll have at most one more year with the Trailblazers, and then they'll part ways, and the Blazers will go out, Joe Cronin and his crew, and they'll hire a new coach. The key will be next year's draft. Not this year's draft,
right.
But next year's draft is stockpile with talent. So the main objective, I would think, right now, between now and next year, is to acquire as many picks in next year's draft as you possibly can.
And we had Jason Quick on yesterday, and he's been around the team as long as I have, pretty much. And he said the same thing that Chad and I say, which is we don't know about the coach yet because he hasn't really had a chance to win, not with the rosters he's been given. We can't tell too much about his coaching abilities based on what we've seen the last few years.
I just remember the first Trailblazer that I met in person when I was 14 and got my first autograph was Jerome Kersey out at PIR. Can you imagine if he would have driven over my foot when I tried to get his autographs?
Well, he was at PIR. I mean, he's probably
he came down
a lot
with
of cars
purpose.
running around pretty fast out there.
Or if I rolled up on John Elway and asked him to sign the cover of the Sports Illustrated that he was on, if he would have said no and then drove over my foot, it would have destroyed me.
Yeah.
Do you think this kid still a LaMelo Ball fan?
I would hope not. He'll be a fan
maybe LaMelo will sign his cast now.
Yeah, well, he could sign that check over to him. Would you like to sign his autograph, or would you like to sign a check to the kid for $5 million? I tell you what, breaking an 11-year-old's foot, that could cost you because you're talking about damages carrying out through his life.
Yeah, you might want to settle that out of court because if that gets to court in front of a jury.
Oh, God. You got no chance. They'll kill you.
The 11-year-old's going to get over on that one.
Yeah.
Hopefully the mom did not put the kid up to some type of fake story to try and siphon money off of LaMelo.
Yeah.
I don't know. If there's any family, the Ball family seems like they might be capable of a
they might declare bankruptcy right before the trial.
All right, the Lakers. LeBron is still being fraudulent with his activity out there. I do not understand for the life of me why his camp is pushing this narrative so hard. And they're using all of their mouthpieces in the media to push the narrative that LeBron has nothing to do with the coaching search for the Lakers.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, that's just a load of crap. And yet J.J. Redick, the guy who he just started this podcast with, is the leading candidate. I would respect LeBron more if he would just come out and say, yeah, I'm absolutely involved in the coaching search. I'm coming up on the end of my career. I want to make sure that our team is in the best position possible moving forward. What's wrong with that?
Nobody would blame him for that at all.
No, but when you come out and you try to run the charade and deny the fact that you are involved in the coaching search, I think it's ridiculous. But
he's been playing the media for so long that he thinks he can just put anything over.
it just drives me crazy. It's like, dude, just tell us the truth, man. Yeah, I'm absolutely involved in the coaching search.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be the first player to do that.
Well, I think if you name his podcast co-host the new coach, you could probably connect the dots and figure he had something to do with the coaching hire.
All right. He probably told Jeannie Buss, look, you either hire JJ or I'm going to drive over your foot. And I'm not joking. All right.
So wait a second. I didn't ask for your autograph.
All right. Bill Plaschke of the LA Times, who's an all-time great, he went after the Lakers pretty hard here. I mean, it does seem a little bit ridiculous. JJ Redick, the problem is, Godfather, he might be a good coach, but we don't know. He has zero coaching experience. Why is that the right hire for that team, or as he put it, a marriage made out of Looney Tunes? Why would you do that?
Well,
I understand why the Lakers are doing it, because they don't want to lose LeBron.
They're going to appease LeBron with whatever it takes.
Yes, because they realize the bottom line, their bottom line, is going to be much better with LeBron in a Lakers jersey than it would be elsewhere. And if you're going to be in bed with LeBron, you just pretty much have to appease him. That's just the way the game is played.
Yes, it is. Always has been.
What do you think about the idea, and Plaschke talked about this, that if J.J. Redick, with no experience, is in front of his team trying to communicate what he wants them to do, how he wants them to defend, how they're going to do this, attack this opponent, whatever the case may be, that players would have raised brows at J.J. wondering if that's his message or is that really LeBron's message? Do you think that's a legitimate concern?
Yeah, absolutely, I do. There'll be resentment for sure. I think there'd be a lot of resentment, which there probably is on that team anyway. I think players resent the idea that he can cut you if he wants.
Yeah.
He can get you waived off that team.
Yeah.
He can get somebody else in there if he wants. He has way too much power for a player.
All right, so how would you go about interviewing a coach? And I know that these interviews are in-depth, but if a guy has no coaching experience whatsoever, like, how would you go about getting a feel or knowing whether or not he's capable of handling that job?
Listen to the podcast. Ask LeBron.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you do a very deep interview asking him about philosophy of coaching, how are they going to defend, what are they going to do differently from what's done in the past, because you want a different outcome than you've had in the past. What he would want alongside him as assistant coaches, what type of players would he want? Not that they're going to listen to him, because they're going to hire his assistant coaches for him. At least that's the way they've done it. They're not going to pay him a boatload of money like other NBA coaches, because it's just such an honor, quote unquote, to coach the Lakers. It's a different situation. I've told you before, it's been characterized to me as a mom and pop store of the NBA.
Yeah.
Because they really don't have as much money as people think they do.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. We got a pair of tickets to give away right now. Billy Currington is going to be at the Clark County Fairgrounds.
No.
August
They got
2nd.
Billy coming in?
Billy's coming in.
Wow.
Shacker loves this song. All right, if you want to see Billy Currington live at the Clark County Fairgrounds, it includes your fair admission. We'll take the first caller through right now, 503-248-0620. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Call now, and you'll get a pair of tickets for Billy Currington August 2nd at the Clark County Fairgrounds. 503-248-0620. We'll come back, and Colin Amos, law offices of Goldberg and Jones, will be in studio with us. What's up?
All right. Hey.
All right, our good friend from the law offices of Goldberg Jones, Colin Amos, is back in studio to answer your questions. What's up, my brother? How was Nashville this past weekend?
Nashville is the place to go. I highly recommend it. I've never been there, but it's Vegas country style.
Yes,
and it was a party beyond parties. The honky tonk row. We stayed 3 blocks off.
Yeah,
just because I didn't want to, have trouble getting home.
Yeah, you didn't want to die.
I didn't want to die. It's a long walk when you've had a few beers. But we went to Old Red, which is Blake Shelton's bar.
Yeah.
And there are like 5 floors. And every floor it's out on the strip. And they shut down the road at 8:30. And so you could just stumble anywhere, any direction, and not get hit by at least a car.
I have been told there's a lot of eyeball candy down there, too.
It is the bachelorette capital of the world.
Yeah.
Now, the funny thing is, so we're here with the law firm, right? And
Yes.
so we're I said, hey, let's do this party bus. And it's 2 hours. They take you around the city, and you have music, you have a DJ, you have a bartender, and it's basically a reclaimed school bus that they painted, and they have a top on it. And so we went to a staging ground for this place.
Yeah.
And it's like that old, there's 99 hot ones and one ugly one.
Yeah.
And it was 9 bachelorette parties and 1 old guy law firm, group there. And
wow.
It was an odd experience to be in there. And then we went out and cruised the strip in a party bus and drinking and having a good time. And there was 15 of these just in this one company, 15 party buses heading out and hauling people around for 2 hours and hooting and hollering. And it was a lot of fun. It was just a good thing to do with a group of people. And if you need something to do, but there's a lot of stuff to do there.
Yeah.
And the live music is phenomenal.
Yeah, the music down there. There are a lot of great local musicians.
Yeah.
Who come around from all over to play and get recognized down there.
Yeah, and every bar has bands on, almost every floor, and really good talent. And even in the morning, I got up Saturday morning, 8:30, went down to walk the strip, and it just smelled like my old fraternity back in the day after a party, just beer and stale beer. And at 8:30, this guy was playing, sounded just like Trace Atkins, deep voice, really good. I'm standing out there, and I look in, and this bar at 8:30 is packed, and there's no food on the table. It's just Bloody Marys and screwdrivers, and people just listen to the music at 8:30 in the morning, just all day long.
That's awesome. Colin Amos, the law office of Goldberg and Jones in studio. We got to ask you about this. I'll try not to laugh again, but we have this story where an 11-year-old was waiting outside the Spectrum Center after the Hornets' purple and teal day. He wanted an autograph from LaMelo Ball. I don't think he got his autograph, but LaMelo apparently drove over his foot and broke it. And they show the picture here where he's on crutches with the cast on his foot. You're a lawyer. If a situation like this pops up, what did you call it? Bad facts and bad situations or circumstances?
These are the kind of cases, if it even gets to the lawyer, because the bottom line is this: settle, because you have bad facts, bad situation, bad look. An 11-year-old, come on. That is...
You don't want that going to trial,
You don't
right?
want it going anywhere. So that is, let's throw money at this. Let's apologize. Let's keep it out. Maybe sign an NDA.
Yeah,
just
give him
don't
an
go to the press.
NBA uniform, right?
Whatever you need to do and make that thing go away.
But is that how that would normally go? If you settle out of court, you could get an NDA on that so that the facts...
You would want to try to get some kind of, hey, we'll settle out, but just don't go to every talk show and have this little kid walking around with crutches and a cast on.
But this is one of those situations where, like, a lot of them, it's pretty much a no-win scenario for LaMelo. It's like...
Absolutely. I'm telling you, it never got to an attorney. It went to the publicist who said, this is bad. We need to make it go away.
Yeah.
Let's get a hold of him. Let's do the right thing. And maybe he can't do the right thing because he just gets in trouble a lot. But otherwise, just help the kid out, make him feel good, see what he wants, money and anything else. Yeah, make it go away.
I mean, Dwight and I wanted to ask you, I think the collective up at, because you're a UW guy, I think the collective is Mount Lake Futures. Is that what you said, right?
Yeah.
Do you contribute to that?
I don't. Those are the real ballers up there contributing. My buddy Lance, I asked, hey, what do you think about this this prospect that they're bringing in for $2 million? And he said, I'm watching the accounting pretty close because I'm worried about, $2 million going to one guy. But he says they have a fair amount of money and they don't just throw it around. So, You never know. But that's a lot of money.
Colin contributes to futures in other ways. I think he's got other futures.
I got to save my money for the football season, right?
Yeah.
But basically for those collectives, like that's big baller money, right?
That's big ball, and it's curious. Now it's from Utah State, came with the coach, so I get it. There's some connection there.
He was
you
like
don't
the
know.
Mountain West Player of the Year or something like that.
Yeah, but that's a lot of money for the UW. Now I'm okay, having a good team, but I'm not sure this individual player is worth that much money, and that's a lot. I think it's the highest.
You would prefer all the resources get poured into the football team.
Yeah, let's get to that back. We got to get back. Go from national champ or almost national championship.
That's right. It was close.
Team. It was close. It wasn't so close, but before that game we won. Let's get back to the football, and hopefully basketball can turn around and we can do something good at the University of Washington. It'd be great. But, let's stick to football. At least that's where I'm going to stay.
All right. Colin Amos, Goldberg Jones, 1-800-DIVORCE. The first call you make is free. Colin will answer all of your questions. So if you're facing a divorce or a custody issue or you need a prenuptial agreement, which we stress is very important, 1-800-DIVORCE is the telephone numbers. Here are the questions that came in. We'll start with this one. Hey, Colin, my wife and I are going through a divorce, and so far everything has been civil. What is the best way to divide up debt accrued in our marriage?
Yeah, most cases start off civil, and then they start talking about how they want to divide things, and it
becomes uncivil.
And it's not so civil.
Especially during the debt discussion.
Yeah, that's right. Where'd all that money go? It's,
and that was your debt, not mine.
Were you gambling during football season? I'm waiting for that question. There's a lot. The biggest thing about debt division is make sure that however you divide the debt, that you also make sure that you have it refinanced, like if you have a mortgage, that it's not just I'll take over full financial responsibility, because we can put in a clause in any divorce judgment says that party shall hold the other harmless from any liability associated with the debt. But the creditors don't care. They don't care you got a divorce and it says she'll really, really pay the debt or he'll really, really pay it.
They just want their money.
They want the money. If they don't pay it, they're coming after you anyway. And so your credit goes up in flames because you didn't get a refinance provision. You want to make sure it's divided in the sense that, okay, maybe I'll get a credit card and balance transfer. You just want to make sure it's out of your name, even though you might have divided. They'd say, I'll take half of it or whatever they do. So be careful on that.
All right, here's the next one. Colin, what are the most important things a judge considers when it comes to a child custody hearing?
That's an important one. That I get all the time because people maybe guys think a little bit differently. They think, well, I go to work, I make all this money, I take care of the family, all these wonderful things that are critical to the support of a family. But the judge is looking, as far as custody, the day-to-day primary care parent, who's getting up, who's taking care of the kids, who's getting them to school, who's picking them up from school, taking them to the doctor's appointments, cooking, cleaning, activities, just the day-to-day work of managing the kids. And that primary care function is critical to determine custody. Not that the other function is not important. And even that being said, a judge wants both parents to be significantly involved. So it's not like all or nothing. It's a matter of a parenting plan to getting some shared parenting time. So even if you're not the primary care parent, you'll still get liberal parenting time. The courts are very good about that.
Custody, I think this gets confusing. You can still, even if your ex-wife has custody, you still get plenty of time with your child.
Absolutely. So and that's why you got to be careful of the word custody. People attach too much meaning to it. We usually generally mean it when they're saying primary custody, just the majority of parenting time. But that could be 49-51. As far as percentage of time. So just make sure your parenting plan gives you the type of parenting time you have, and forget about the word custody. Just make sure you have a good parenting plan that's well structured and you have the time you should have with your kids.
All right. Colin Amos, law offices of Goldberg Jones, Divorce for Men, 1-800-DIVORCE is the telephone number. If you're facing a divorce or custody issue or need a prenuptial agreement, call 1-800-DIVORCE. Next question, Colin. What are the most important things to consider when putting together a parenting plan with your soon-to-be ex?
Yeah, on the heels of that custody aspect, the parenting plan is what defines your relationship with your child or children going forward. And usually the people that are most agreeable make the biggest mistakes because they think we're getting along. We'll just put in these generalized parenting plans. And then if we have problems like holidays, we'll figure it out. Well, you won't figure it out when she meets your new girlfriend or thereafter, because all of a sudden she's not so workable anymore. And if it says you get 50% of the winter break, well, what does that mean? So then you end up having to pay an attorney 5 to 10 times more to modify that to, put in those details. So the best thing about a parenting plan, details, and then a few more details, and line it out.
And I think it's important for people to understand when you put together a parenting plan, you put it together specifically, right? So there's no room for gray areas. So
trying to, you should.
Yes.
You know that.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm the perfect example. I was too agreeable. And then when things popped up that she didn't like, then, it was to the T on
absolutely
the parenting plan that was written, which was poor. And so I got screwed.
You have nice guy syndrome, and that's carried you a long way. So I tell guys that when they're too nice and they do that, hey, don't stop being a nice guy because somebody took advantage of you. But let's fix this parenting plan, make sure the details are there. Or before you have to suffer from nice guy syndrome, just make sure those details are ahead of time.
I knew I had a syndrome somewhere, and that's what it is.
That's
nice
just one of them.
Syndrome. Yeah, that's just one of them.
I spoke to your therapist, and that's what came up. That's not a bad syndrome compared to the syndromes I see.
Yes,
tell you that.
I'm sure.
All right, here's the next one, Colin. What does ADR mean in relation to divorce?
Yeah, that's alternative dispute resolution. And what we usually mean when we say that as it relates to divorce is mediation, and mediation is a great tool to use at the right time. Usually we go through the beginning of the case. We do discovery sharing of information. We get all of the facts and all the details on the table. And then we try to negotiate a conclusion. That's what a good attorney's trying to do. But there's that time when you just can't resolve it. So at that point, you bring in a mediator, usually a retired judge or somebody qualified to help you negotiate, and you try to resolve the case because nobody wants to go to trial. It's a failure if you get to trial. Somebody wasn't being reasonable. This has been done before. There's a way we get through this. So mediation can help bridge the gap of that disparity and hopefully settle the case.
All right, Colin. Next question that is on the list for you. My wife and I are preparing for divorce. What are the best ways to avoid significant financial ruin when going through the process?
Other than not get married. that's but that one's on, that would be good to go back in time. It really depends on the individuals because people usually are emotional and they're trying to get the other person. And that when you're making decisions or you're angry or upset, that you're litigating things that maybe are not so rational. But try to be as upfront and honest as possible. The discovery process, as I mentioned earlier, is a real pain. Mm-hmm. But supply the information. Get all of the financials, yes, the tax returns, everything on the table. Work through valuation issues. Appraisals, get appraisals of houses, make sure you have objective data for car values, real estate, businesses, anything you can. Get it on the table so that we're not fighting over, well, I think your business is worth this and I think it's worth that. So as much of the objective information, then it becomes more of a divide by two scenario as opposed to, well, we're fighting over what those values are. So that's a good one.
All right, next one is, Colin, what is an uncontested divorce?
It's scarce, unfortunately, but an uncontested divorce is a degree divorce where people actually say, hey, let's not pay these attorneys a ton of money. Let's actually sit down over a cup of coffee and work it out. And as I tell clients, if you can sit down with your soon-to-be ex for $8 of coffee, that's that's better than $800 worth of attorney's fees. You can sit down and work it out. Then you can use an attorney in the most appropriate function, which is to draft the details up, dot the I's, cross the T's. We have computers these days. It's not hard to draft an agreement.
There's a template of some sort, right?
There are forms. And so, we're good at dotting I's, crossing the T's, but where you get into trouble is fighting about things, and that's where the expense comes. So an uncontested divorce is an agreed divorce. It's great if you can do it.
All right, Colin, final question here. Does adultery impact divorce in Washington State?
That's a tricky question because it does, because it's the leading cause of divorce.
Yeah.
So it does. But the real question is, having an affair, committing adultery, it's irrelevant to the court. It's not irrelevant to the person that is going through it and is upset about it. And there's all sorts of other issues people go through. But most states are no-fault states where it just doesn't matter to the court as to why. So whether it be drugs or alcohol, affairs, abuse, all of that, the court says, great, we'll give you a divorce. That'll solve that problem. You don't have to be married to that person anymore. But you still got here together. It's your kids. We'll figure out a parenting plan. You as a mother, you as a father, not you as a married couple. Property and debt, you got here together. So a lot of it doesn't have a great bearing on the outcome in the eyes of the court.
Yeah, I watch a lot of crime TV, Snapped, and all those shows. I think adultery has an impact on divorce in every single state across the country.
It does.
Based on what I can tell from the television.
Oh, yeah. And I was in Nashville, and I can tell you there's going to be a lot of people calling their divorce attorneys, on Mondays after a weekend there.
Gosh, I got to get down there. I know a couple of friends that moved down there. Like, Tennessee's one of the most popular states in the country right now.
It's incredible. I thought, when I flew in, I was just, I had never really done much research, but we flew in. It was overcast. It was rainy. It's humid there.
Yeah.
But it looked like we took off from Portland and landed in Portland. A lot of water, river, and green. And it's a city that's it's got a click to it now.
Yeah.
People are moving there. It's got an energy. The construction is great. The people have great attitudes. The surrounding communities are wonderful. We went out to Belle Meade and went to a historical site.
Oh, sweet.
And apparently, which I found in our tour, that Nashville was the first city to go in the Civil War. So it wasn't destroyed. So all the houses and things weren't burnt. And so you can go find a lot of great historical markers in Tennessee and Nashville area because they were taken over right away from the north. And so there wasn't much of a fight there. So nothing's destroyed. So it's pretty fascinating to go to.
Didn't your son used to live in Tennessee?
Yeah, he lived quite a ways from Nashville, actually. He lived in Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg. But now he lives in Kentucky, and he's much closer to Nashville. He's only an hour away.
Huh.
When I go see him, I fly into Nashville, and we've spent a couple of days just kind of wandering around Nashville. It is fun. Good restaurants there, too, I might say.
Restaurants.
We spent
Great
one
restaurants.
morning going to Jack White's recording studio there.
Yep.
Going through that. There's a lot of fun things to do. And that street you're talking about is crazy.
Our Uber driver, we got in the Uber and we said, how about the Strip and the honky tonks? He said, I've lived here all my life. He's about 42. I've been to that Strip twice because it is just where all the tourists come in and go to. But it is fun and it's great. But all the locals avoid it like the plague, like they would in Vegas, the Vegas Strip. Nobody goes to the Vegas Strip too. So, but it's fun. And like you said, there's all sorts of museums and historical sites to go to. Great food, great restaurants. Lots to do.
That's great. Colin Amos, Goldberg Jones, 1-800-DIVORCE here in the studio. If you're facing a divorce or a custody issue or you need a prenuptial agreement, give them a call, 1-800-DIVORCE. No charge for the first call. Colin will point you in the right direction. And if you're facing a divorce, you definitely want a team of attorneys who specialize in divorce, which they do. And Colin and the team are great, and they'll take care of you. 1-800-DIVORCE is the telephone number, or you can check them out online. Just go to goldbergjones-or.com. You're the man.
That's good. That was good. It's always good here.
I love
Spreading
it.
love.
And you survived your weekend in Nashville.
I did, barely. It is Tuesday. I'm finally
You're still
recovering.
struggling a little bit.
Yes.
All right. Colin joins us every month to answer your questions, so you can keep those coming in. We'll keep things rolling here on the Rip City Drive. All right, Godfather, I'm going to need some of your input here. Also, Travis, who lives in Boring, he's got his own kettle corn company, Pacific Northwest Kettle Corn, Godfather. And he said, hey, I own a Pacific Northwest kettle corn company. Let me know if I can get you a few bags. See, the problem, what I'm concerned about here is I know Travis, and he's a good guy, but he's a Raider fan. And he's always giving me flack about being a Bronco fan. Would it be wise for me as a Bronco fan to trust getting a product that I'm going to consume from a Raider fan? Or would he try to slip me a Mickey and create misfortune in my life? That's the big question there.
Well, I hate to personalize everything, Chad, but I'm not a fan of any team, so I'd be happy to sample his kettle corn.
And you and I both love kettle corn.
Kettle corn is outstanding, yes.
All right, I'll check it out. pnwkettlecorn.com.
Travis, hook us up.
Yeah, hook us up, Trav. If you hook us up like Daniel in North Phoenix, we'll allow you to come on and give us dirty jokes.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Here's a question I have for you. You recommended a steakhouse because I'm going to New York in a couple of weeks for a Dodgers-Yankees series.
Right.
And I wanted to have, one meal where you can sit down, nice meal, and enjoy it. And so you gave me the recommendation on Gallagher Steakhouse, which has been around for a very long period of time in New York. And I pulled it up not knowing where it was at. It just happens to be 0.1 miles from my hotel.
Yeah.
Which is fabulous.
We lucked out. Yeah. That's
all right.
Great.
So on the dinner menu, if you look at their steak options, they've got the porterhouse, the New York sirloin, the bone-in New York sirloin sliced, the filet mignon, the rib steak, rib veal chop, lamb chops, chop steak, or the roast prime rib of beef. What do you think is the best option? Most people I know always go filet. Would you agree that filet is your best choice, or what do you recommend when you're going to a steakhouse you haven't been to before?
Well, filet is always my choice. I think that's when you find out if they're a legit steakhouse or not. Now, it depends on if you like your meat with a little more fat on it, people would order prime rib, which gives you a little more flavor sometimes. But I would stick to the filet is the best cut, I think. Now, a lot of steakhouses specialize in one particular cut, and they do that really well, and they do it unlike what anybody else does. So you have to be alert to that and maybe even ask your server, what's your recommendation? What do you specialize in? And what do most people order when they come here? And that would give you a little more insight. But in general, prime rib is your best bet. Or I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say prime rib.
The filet.
The filet is your best bet.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to go wrong when you're choosing the filet, right?
Yeah, it's a great cut of meat.
Well, it's got good reviews and
been there a long time.
Yep. I like places that have been around for a long time. They got some history there.
Yeah.
And
your servers will be professional servers.
I like professional servers.
Yeah.
And I've never been really a big red meat guy. Like, I don't go after steak.
I know.
But going to nice steakhouses, I realize the way they prepare it, the way it's done, it's a different ballgame.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like the steak I was consuming growing up, Godfather.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different.
I know what you mean. Yes.
All right. So Gallagher's, I like that. Any other recommendations? Like, what do you and Nancy like to do when you go to New York?
Well, we go to Times Square. Usually we're going to a theater there. And we always, before the show, stop at Junior's and try an egg cream. Great desserts, great sandwiches, big salads. Everything you need is there. And it's kind of a New York tradition.
The funny thing about egg cream, ever since you mentioned that to me, I've been looking it up and doing a little study. It's just interesting to me that the drink called egg cream does not have egg or cream.
I know. It's crazy. But that's kind of a New York thing.
That's what they call it.
Yeah.
All right.
Can't get it anywhere else. I've never seen it anywhere but New York.
Well, I'm looking forward to going. And Yankees are playing good baseball. The Dodgers are playing good baseball. It's going to be cool to see Judge and Ohtani on the field together.
You just hop on the subway in your Yankee Stadium. It's really fun, I think, to go to New York for a few days and experience ball games, tennis tournaments, plays, Broadway shows. There's just so much going on there.
And the way those cities back east are set up with the public transport, it's just better than here. So it's easier to get around.
Yeah. So nice to go to a place and not have to rent a car.
Especially nowadays, man. It's not cheap. In fact, what did I see? These stats are ridiculous to me, but you were talking about the prices of like McDonald's. The fast food, not just McDonald's, but across the board is going up.
Yeah.
But I saw this graphic put up on Twitter today about the price increases from the end of 2019 up until right now.
Mm-hmm.
So your medium French fries at McDonald's at the end of 2019 was $1.79. It's now $4.19.
Whoa!
Which
for
is a
medium French fries?
Yes, which is an increase of 134.1%.
Wow!
The Big Mac at the end of 2019 was $3.99. It's now $7.49, which is an 87% increase. The 10-piece McNuggets was $4.49, now $7.58, 68% increase. And the cheeseburger, which is eye-popping, end of 2019 it was $1. Now it's $3.15, which is an increase of 215%.
Gosh.
If you take a look at Taco Bell, the beefy 5-layer burrito at the end of 2019, $1.69. It's now $3.69, an increase of 118.3%.
Does it have just the crunchy beef taco there, the basic taco? How much that has changed?
No.
Because Taco Bell has really changed that, too. That used to be 50 cents for their basic bottom-level taco.
Yeah, crunchy taco was like 49 cents. You can't beat that.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A, they've had some issues, too. The 8 Chick-fil-A nuggets was $3.05. Now $5.99, a 96% increase. Deluxe chicken sandwich was $3.65, now $6.55.
Jeez.
79.5% increase.
You're basically talking about doubling your prices in a short amount of time.
It's painful. Very painful.
Wow.
That's why I need that In-N-Out to open up in Ridgefield sooner rather than later so I don't hit the poverty line because of my children. It's crazy. Isaac eats too much. It's like, slow down. You're killing me.
Those guys at In-N-Out must be selling so much food that they don't need to raise the prices that dramatically.
All right, Rip City Drive, Michael Shacker, Dwight James, Chad doing with you. When we come back, we want to focus in on how the Nuggets championship run for back-to-back came to an end, and we're talking about the relationship between coach and front office, and we have a 4-pack of tickets to give away for your hops so you can sit in the Rip City Radio row. We're going to do that next. Hey, what's going on, my friends? It's now 5 o'clock. Chad here. Eastern Conference Finals will kick off here in a few minutes. Game 1, Indiana at Boston. The Celtics favored by a whopping 13.5. That game will be on ESPN. Kristaps Porzingis will not play tonight. Missed the first 2 games. There's hope that he may return later in the series. The Western Conference Finals will kick off tomorrow in Minnesota. The Mavericks and Timberwolves. Game tips off at 5:30 on TNT. Timberwolves favored by 4.5 on the diamond. The Mariners got a win last night, put up 4 in the ninth. They topped the Yankees 5-4. They have a 2-game lead in the AL West. First pitch today from Yankee Stadium at 4:05. Wu and Schmidt are battling right now. Caitlin Clark has agreed to an endorsement deal with Wilson Sporting Goods. It includes a signature basketball. More of the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad coming at you right now.
It's time for the big story of the day on the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad.
Michael Malone. I don't like him. Excuse me. Mike Malone. And he's going to be Mike until I decide.
The big story of the day is powered by Powered Kia. The largest selection of Kias in Oregon is at poweredkia.com.
All right, Mariners got off to a good start tonight. They're up 2-0, top of the 4th in New York. Do you think the Mariners might actually try to do something to bolster their offense before the deadline hits later in the year, Godfather?
Well, that would be very off-brand for them to do something about it. They're always trying to figure out how they might be good 2 years from now, dealing in prospects rather than players that might help their current team.
It's just great to see them playing good baseball at this time of the year.
Yeah.
They're on pace right now to be in a position post-All-Star break to be able to make a run and not have to dig themselves out of a big hole like we saw last year.
Yeah.
Good pitching.
Yeah, it's their formula from year before last when they were in the playoffs. And but, you know, if you're going to go very far in this whole thing, you need more offense than what they have.
All right, let's talk a little basketball. The Nuggets, of course, upended by the Timberwolves Game 7 on Sunday. They're done, and they're not going to be repeat champs. And that's much to the dismay of Michael Malone, who was very upset after the game.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of us, we're trying to figure out, like, okay, how good is this Nuggets team that won a championship last year? Are they going to put together a run and maybe win back-to-back titles or win 3 out of 4? You know, that remains to be seen. But this comes back to the philosophy between front office and coach. And you've talked to me a lot about this over the years where, you know, the front office has got to understand their coach. The coach has to understand the front office. Like, you've got to understand who you're dealing with because the players that you go out and get, you've got to make sure that your coach is going to be comfortable playing those guys, right?
Right.
And for the Nuggets, they really missed 2 guys in particular that were on the bench last year. And it's part of the reason why Jokic played every minute of the game in Game 7 on Sunday. They didn't have reliable guys on the bench that Coach Malone trusted. Last year, they had Jeff Green, who was critical. The guy feels like he's played in the NBA for the last 30 years, but a veteran who's been there and done that is someone that Coach Malone trusts. And also Bruce Brown, who left because they didn't have the money to sign him based on the way he played. And he was a critical piece of what they were able to accomplish in the postseason last year.
Yeah, they could have paid him too. They just didn't want to. They didn't want to pay tax, and they didn't want to. You know, most teams that win a championship are a little more willing to pay a tax if they're getting their money's worth, which means championships. And you also have a coach in Michael Malone who was very dedicated, it seems, to going back to back. That was it. He wanted to prove that was no fluke. We're a dynasty. Let's go get another one.
Yeah. So Calvin Booth is running things in the front office. He's got a design on what he wants to do. And he went out and he found some young guys that he placed on the bench for Coach Malone.
Yeah.
And he thought they were good players. The problem is Coach Malone doesn't trust young players, and he's not going to play them. And he begrudgingly played Brown or Braun or whatever he calls himself with the B-R-A-U-N. Yeah. And when you don't develop players throughout the regular season, you're definitely not going to feel comfortable putting them in a game in the postseason.
Yeah, and Calvin Booth was on record opening night for the Nuggets as saying that it wasn't necessarily winning back-to-back. He wanted sustainability for the franchise, which means winning, say, 2 titles in 5 years, 4 titles in 7 years. That kind of run, which is, granted, a dynasty, but so he's looking for younger, sustainable kind of players who can be the next wave of talent on this team, when it appears Michael Malone wasn't really at all interested in that because he didn't play those guys enough to develop them.
Well, the 2 guys that Booth went after that were supposed to be the replacements to Jeff Green and to Bruce Brown was Peyton Watson and, of course, Christian Brown.
Yeah.
Those are kind of the 2 key guys, but they never really got that opportunity. We did see Holiday get in spurts in the postseason. What I don't understand is, like, okay, so you go out, you let Bruce Brown go, and you bring in these youngsters. How could Booth not know that Coach Malone was not going to play those guys? How can you not know that? And not only that, but do you like this idea of, taking this sustainability approach? Because it seems to me that when you have a guy like Jokic, who's one of the all-time greats, you got to capitalize on that now.
Well, I think sustainability is acceptable before you win a championship. You kind of want, and which is what, and people didn't like it, but it's what Neil Olshey did in Portland. It's like we need to stay at that level so that once every couple of years, if we hit on the right surrounding players, we can make that jump into the conference finals or maybe even further. But we want to build around Dame, so we don't have the money to get another superstar, so we're going to have to just keep putting pieces around and sustaining that. Now, after you've won a championship, that's different. I think that's when you say, okay, we're at the level we needed to be at. What can we do to stay there? That's what you want to do. You want to stay there. Nobody wants to win a title one year and then not even get to the conference finals the next year. You have to be better than that. And he didn't do that. He didn't go out and bring veteran players in or keep the veteran players like Green or Brown. Colorful kind of choices there. He didn't keep those guys around for Michael Malone. So he had to go out and just play his starters way too many minutes. He lost the depth that made them good previously. I think Jokic wore out. Several other players got tired. Porter Jr., for example. So this is the result of doing that. And that's why, and I know what front office guys do. They say, we're going to take the depth away and we're going to put rookies there, leaving the coach no choice but to play the rookies because he doesn't have anybody else. So we're going to make him develop those players. The problem in Denver was he didn't play them. One of them played some. The other one didn't play much at all.
And then what we saw come postseason time.
Pay the price for that.
And it's not like Coach Malone's the lone wolf in this category.
Right.
Most coaches over the years, they don't want to play youngsters, especially come postseason time. Why? Because they're trying to win. They feel the pressure, and they're going to go with the guys that they trust.
How many rookies can you trust in the playoffs? Big games, big series.
I've been watching the NBA for a long time. There have been very few rookies that have been able to step up and make good decisions and game-winning plays.
Yeah.
There aren't too many Magic Johnsons starting at center in the finals, leading a team to victory.
Mm-hmm.
That just doesn't happen very often.
Well, you even see San Antonio, which has been a pretty smart franchise over the years, getting a generational player last year, but not making the moves to try and get somewhere this season in the playoffs because they knew they were dealing with a raw rookie who may or may not even be healthy by the time the playoffs roll around. So it's like, we're going to take another year to build around him. We're going to try and bring more young players in on his timeline and build that way. But they didn't go out and surround him with a lot of veteran players.
It reminds me of the Bulls in that final three-peat where they had Jordan, Pippen, and Ron Harper and Dennis Rodman. In the 97 team, they had Bison Dele, who was a key player off the bench that played big minutes and was highly productive.
Right.
When they lost him, they went out and got Scotty Burrell. They worked around the edges to find enough veteran players who could keep them in a position to continue to make their run until it was over. That's kind of what you're talking about,
That's
right?
exactly what they did. Jerry Krause was really good at finding the peripheral players that kind of played off Jordan and were able to take advantage of Jordan's skills. And, of course, he was cooperative enough to let those players cook a little bit.
I just don't think Denver, their core, the guys with Jokic and Murray, they're not aging yet. They're still in their prime. So I'm not sure that you need to go youth right now.
And how much longer are those guys going to be? You can't plan for 5 years from now because they're not going to be the same players.
Exactly. You got to
go now.
You got to strike right while the iron's hot. I've seen this in sports enough, as you have, that usually when you think, oh, we'll get back, you never get back.
Yeah.
And Jokic is too good to not capitalize on what you got. You've got to put all your resources in to win now because they're never going to find another player like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's their best player in franchise history. Franchise has been around a long time. You don't know when another guy like that's going to walk through the door. So you keep pouring everything in, even when it comes to spending money. I would be willing to spend a few tax dollars now to make sure that because you don't want to look back with the Jokic years and think, man, if we didn't put everything into it and we didn't get as much out of it as we should have, right?
Right. And you look at the Trailblazers situation. NBA Finals in 90 and 92, should have been in there in 91, but things happen. That's what happens. You can't get there all the time. And
that was their best team and they didn't get there.
Yeah. And here's the thing. The front office and the owner panicked a little bit when they got there twice and didn't win. They started tearing the thing up the next year. Meanwhile, Utah just stays the course, Stockton and Malone, and basically outlasted the Blazers and got to the finals 2 times after that. And it was just like, it was criminal that team was torn apart too soon.
Boy, it's amazing. I watched Utah with Stockton and Malone in that main core. 10 years of playoff defeats, coming up short. But they stayed the course, and they finally got over the hump and went to the finals in back-to-back years.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't win it because they were going up against one of the all-time greats in MJ.
Who's going to beat him? Nobody.
But the patience and continuing to tinker until they found that right mix, and they nearly got over the hump.
Yeah.
I mean, they pushed him hard. They pushed him to 6 games in both series.
Yeah, they did.
And they were close games.
Yeah. But it just shows you building these teams is not an exact science. You talk about one team that didn't make any changes, another team that did, it could just as easily work the other way. You just never know.
And kind of like what you're saying with the Knicks, right? You start tinkering too much and you take away a piece that holds everything together, and then all of a sudden you're not the same team. It's weird how teams work where, like Minnesota right now, they've got the right combination of guys. It just works. So if you're Minnesota, you hope you win the championship now because you may never get that type of connection again with the guys that they got.
Yes.
Or with the Knicks. Be careful with how you build moving forward. And like you mentioned, going after the big fish, yes, Kevin Durant would be nice, but what will you have to give up to get him? And then if he comes in, do you have the same chemistry and grind it out, just dogging them, you right?
I like Kevin Durant a lot.
You've always been a big fan.
I don't see him playing in the Thibodeau system. I just don't see that. I don't think he's that player. He's a finesse guy. He's not a grinder. No offense. He's a Hall of Famer being a finesse guy. But I don't see him. Well, if he tried it, he'd be hurt, basically. And a lot of the older guys, Paul George, same way. You start pushing him, I ain't going to worry. He gets hurt.
All right, we got a 4-pack of tickets for the Hillsboro Hops, and we want you to be able to sit in the Rip City Radio row, and your chance to win is right now. This is coming up on Friday, May 31st at Hillsboro Baseball Park. They're going to be taking on Eugene, the first pitch at 6:35. If you'd like a 4-pack of tickets for the Hops, fire away. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Call now. And Shacker will get your information. You get a 4-pack of tickets for the Hops to sit in the Rip City Radio row. Fire away, 503-248-0620. When we come back, guess what, Godfather? Bo Nix update.
Yes!
You got to let the Billy Ocean play out a little bit. Oh, I forgot to tell you when I was thinking about you this morning when I was walking around the golf course. We were talking about Lionel Richie the other day.
Yeah.
He got stuck in my head, and so I was singing Lionel Richie in my head the whole morning.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, which song?
Once, twice.
Oh, God, 3 times a lady.
Yeah. And then I was thinking the Commodores are dum-dums for getting mad at Lionel for writing all the hits.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we don't need any of those love ballads. It's, it's different than anything else we've done.
Yeah. Cost them millions of dollars.
Buffoons.
Yeah.
I love that, too, when bands – I don't understand it. Like bands, artists, they come up, they start out undiscovered, right? And people love them.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole goal is for them to make it big and have hits. And then when they do that, people revolt against the same band that they love because they become mainstream.
Yeah, they don't like you being too commercial. You're not supposed to make money. You're just supposed to make music.
That's ridiculous. And Lionel Richie did quite well. You don't want me? You're upset with the ballads? I'm going to go write some ballads and just put out some solo singles.
Look up his house someday in L.A. if you get a chance.
It's right there in the L.A. Country Club where they had the tournament last year.
Yeah, it is. Huge.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's like a compound.
Gosh.
That's pretty expensive real estate there it's sitting on, too.
Lionel Richie's awesome. He's one of those guys where he's got like so many different songs that I love. I'm just like, how can you be that good? He's really something else.
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right, let's talk. Let's get to a Bo Nix update. Give it to me, Shacker. It's a great song. I can tell you, based on the way I played today, I'll probably be singing more Lionel. This song helped calm my nerves.
If you play well, don't change anything. Don't change anything. Just do the same routine.
This guy was so hot back in the early 80s that everything he put out just turned to pure gold.
Yeah. Some voice.
He had the shiny hair, too, back in the day with the fro. The Jerry curl. That was awesome.
Yeah, he did.
I don't know what it is, but there's a power. Like when you can play music and write songs and sound like this, the ladies don't hate it. I know that much. Good for you, Lionel.
I think you're right.
You like this song, Shacker? Or is this too sappy for you?
No, I like it.
Did you
Brings
see
back
Lionel
good
in
memories.
concert?
What's that?
Did you see Lionel in concert?
Yeah, that was like 5 years ago. But yeah,
How good was he?
He needs help from the fans singing his songs.
Because he doesn't have the voice.
Yeah, his voice isn't the same, but everyone in the building had fun and
I'm
helped him
sure.
sing the songs.
It's great. Don't you like going to concerts where you know the words to basically every song that's being played?
Yeah, but I don't sing them out loud. I don't do that.
Well, you and I sat next to some buffoon down in Phoenix.
Yes.
Hey, idiot. No offense, but I did not come here and pay the price, and neither did Dwight, to hear you sing these songs.
He was singing so loudly, you could basically not hear the guys actually singing.
I have that Schmendrick on recordings of the songs I was getting.
Yeah.
I wanted to strangle him. I got to be honest with you. It's like, dude, what are you doing? And he was wearing like a tank top or something, too. Like, right away, like, if you go out in public at a concert and you got the tank top on, right away I'm suspect on you. But then you start singing and acting a fool. It's like, get out of here. Anyways, I don't like, why do people do that?
I don't know.
And why is it sometimes when you go to a movie with certain people, they ask questions during the movie?
Oh, gosh.
Will you stop talking? There's just certain things
It's like, figure it out yourself.
Red flags, right? Well, why are we, first of all, we're in a theater. Why are you talking to me? 2, I don't need your commentary. I don't think that much during a movie, but I got these people I know that they try to figure out the plot, and then they got the answers, and they want to share the answers.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want you sharing with me.
Yeah. I bet he did it. You hear all that stuff all the time.
Well, I can tell you what, that song definitely got me in the mood to talk a little Bo Nix, who is the new
Really?
quarterback of the Denver Broncos. All right, so first things first, this past weekend, you saw the report. He went to the NFLPA rookie premiere.
Yes.
And I guess what this is, it's like a deal where they plug in the rookies with these different companies. You learn how to market yourself, how to utilize social media, and you get a chance to find other ways, revenue streams to be able to make money outside of football, which I don't think will be a problem for Bo Nix when you're the quarterback of an NFL team. That should come pretty easy. But here's what I love. He got a chance to meet Tom Brady and Jay-Z and some other big stars. The only person that was putting out social media commentary or pictures was his wife, Izzy. Bo Nix was not going Russell Wilson. He was not posting pictures. He was not making noise. And I just thought that was a good sign for a young quarterback who wasn't getting wrapped up in being a quarterback. He was just there to handle his business.
Yeah.
If his lovely wife wants to put out some pictures because she's excited, that's fine. But for Bo Nix, all business. And my guess would be that teammates who have played in the NFL for a number of years, when they see the low-key nature in which he operates with, that's going to go a long ways in that locker room for guys who are going to be blocking for him, guys who are going to be trying to make plays for him. I think they like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and with the quarterback, it's always more examination by the teammates because they're trying to find out who he is, and it's good for them to find out, look, this isn't going to be a guy trying to steal the spotlight from us. And you can tell that right away. If he's posting all this stuff from, pictures of him and Tom Brady and talking about this thing all the time, that's not a good look for him. He needs to be head down, eyes on the business, get your job done first. And he's really smart about that.
No question about it. Also, with that, no social. He did talk about shortly after he became the quarterback, and I'm jealous about this because I would love this phone call that I know is never coming. But he got a message. John Elway reached out to him, and Elway welcomed him to town and just encouraged him, said, hey, I love the pick. I'm excited that you're here. Anything I can do to help or be of assistance, let me know.
Yeah.
And I'm always going to be there for you. And Bo Nix was blown away by that guy reaching out to him, who is the Rocky Mountain legend, John Elway. And he said his dad was jealous because Elway was his favorite when he was growing up. So he thought his dad thought it was pretty cool that Elway reached out to him. But he said that he's noticed that type of support. He's very excited to be in Denver and says it's an honor to wear a Bronco jersey and be quarterback for the team. But I like that when the former greats, right, who have had their day in the sun, when they reach out to be able to say, hey, whatever you need, I'm here for you. And that's big when John Elway welcomes you with open arms because he is Denver.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically giving Bo Nix his blessing.
Yes.
He's touching his forehead, showing people I like this guy.
Yeah. Now, the other thing he did that was smart, because they have a connection from the South, but he's reached out to and has been working with Phillip Rivers, another guy who played in the NFL forever. And what he wanted to work with Phillip on was just making that transition from college ball, college life, to all of a sudden fast forward a few months later, and you're the quarterback of an NFL team.
Yeah.
That's a huge undertaking because you're no longer tucked away in Eugene. You're now the face of a billion-dollar franchise. That's a big deal. And Phillip, who has experience because he played in the league for so long, is able to help him adapt. And again, I think that's another smart move to reach out to a vet like Phillip, make a connection, because I think the hardest part for a lot of these youngsters, it's learning how to go about your business, how to be an NFL quarterback, how to study, how to adapt, how to get used to the town you're in, how to plug yourself in, how to be a teammate, how not to say too much. Like, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
Phillip, my guess, would be much like an assistant coach sitting on the bench, like Scotty Brooks with Chauncey Billups. Phillip can help him think about things that would never have crossed his mind because he hasn't been there and done that like Phillip Rivers has.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's terrific. And he's already, I think, through the way he handles himself, has won that city over already. Now, I realize he's a quarterback, and that city will kind of, you never know. They'll ride with him until he isn't so good, and then they'll stop. But it's very important, I think, from the start that he has so many fans on his side.
Also, I think what helps in this, I'll ask you, his father obviously played ball at Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
He understands the pressure of being an SEC quarterback. But don't you think it helps to have a dad that speaks the same quarterback language, who played big-time, football at Auburn, that can kind of help him with this transition? Having someone like that you can lean on, that he's close to?
I think we're already seeing the results of the sort of parenting he's had through his time at Oregon and his transition now. He has been taught the right way to handle himself, and he knows how to be a quarterback in the NFL, even though he hasn't been one yet, really. But he knows it. He knows what he's supposed to do, and he's towing the line, and he's doing the right things.
That's pretty sweet. So Bo Nix also said that the plays, the playbook, all of the information that he's getting from Sean Payton and the coaching staff, it's a lot. But he said that he thinks that Coach Payton and his staff are doing a good job of teaching right now. And he said they're doing a good job of presenting it in ways that he can absorb it as quickly as possible to be able to go out there, as he said, to know the play and then go out there and react without having to think too much. And I think that's a big problem for youngsters. Their minds get clogged up, and I think it lessens their reaction time on the field when they're trying to play. So that's, in essence, that's what I'm most excited about. Bo Nix, smart, hungry, wants to learn type of quarterback, a prospect, with Sean Payton, the great teacher of quarterbacks and someone who understands offense as well as anyone. Those two guys working together, I want to see how that develops. And I also learned that this is the first-round quarterback that's been drafted by a Sean Payton-led team. This guy right here.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, because he had Breeze for all those years.
Yeah.
And now he's finally got a chance to work with a guy in Bo Nix, who he handpicked. And so if I'm Bo, I feel pretty good because whatever Sean Payton's got, he's going to go through hell or high water to make sure that he teaches you everything he knows. And he's going to give you the most care and the most opportunity to be the best that you can possibly be. I just don't know what else you could ask for as a quarterback. Really, it's going to come down to Bo just taking the information and then transferring that to good quarterback play.
Yeah, and Chad, I think the least of my worries about him would be his ability to read the field, read the coverage, know the right play. I think that's his strong suit. I've thought that all along. He was his first year at Oregon, he's changing plays at the line of scrimmage. They're getting the snap count right. They're not getting a lot of illegal procedure penalties. He was doing the right things at the line of scrimmage, and I think that's so important. It's just going to come down to him making the throws and being accurate, and he's pretty good at that too.
All right, let's talk a little conference finals. Indiana right now trails Boston 27-20 in the first quarter. Game one of that series. Western Conference Finals will kick off tomorrow. First off, can you explain, because you've been around and covering teams and have talked to a lot of coaches, how in-depth is the preparation for a coaching staff going into a playoff series?
This is when your assistant coaches and your scouts really earn their money. And also your video coordinator. Those poor guys have the biggest job of all, because this isn't the old days where each player got a playbook and he studied the other team's plays. It's all video now, pretty much. Each guy will get an iPad that's just loaded with the other team. Tendencies, mostly geared to the guys you would be guarding or would be guarding you. Very individualized for each player. I can't imagine what it's like to go back through a whole season worth of cuts and find all those and put them all together for each player on the roster.
Wow.
It's unbelievable, and it's so in-depth. Those assistant coaches haven't slept for days. And I feel for Indiana is coming in with, 1 day's rest after the last round, and their poor coaches, I'm sure they started on this. You would have had to, they knew they were going to be playing Boston, so they started on this 4 days ago probably, because if you end up losing that game against the Knicks, so what? You just throw that stuff out or you save it. But at any rate, they've had so much work to do. People don't understand the preparation because they get all this info anyway. I've seen some of the stuff they get, and it's like, okay, when Porzingis is in this spot at the three-point line, he goes to his right once, he goes to his left 20%, he shoots the three 35%. Everything is broken. All the post-ups. When he's at the right block, this is what he does. Left block, this is what he. They get all the data after every game, all season long. It's just an incredible thing to have to parse all that out, decide what's important, what your players can handle, and then not give them too much to handle.
That's amazing. I remember Shane Battier, a great defensive player during his time in the league.
Yeah,
went
and a
to
real
Duke.
student of basketball.
Yes. He actually kept his own detailed notebook on all the different players that he defended, and then he would go back and put together his own scouting report for the guys he was going to be guarding. And I just remember him through his study when they were playing the Lakers with Kobe in a playoff series, the Western Conference semis at the time, and I think this is 2009, he said that in his study on Kobe and all the notes he had kept, Kobe went left 50% of the time and went right 50% of the time. He purposely, so you wouldn't be able to detect any tendencies in terms of what he would do. So with this series, Indiana and Boston, first off, what matchup? It could be coaching. It could be a player. Like, what's the one thing that you think will turn out to be the key in this series? What are you going to be paying attention to?
Well, first of all, I want to see if Halliburton looks healthy and if he is at the same level he was during the first part of the season when he was really the talk of the whole league at that point.
Yeah.
I want to see that. I want to see how well the Celtics are playing team basketball, how much they're moving the ball and moving bodies rather than falling into that old ISO stuff that they tend to fall into once in a while.
Now, for the coach that we have our concerns about in Missoula, Montana, what's going to be the key for him in this series to get to the finals and not have a failure like we saw last year against Miami?
Well, he's going to be judged basically on how his players play together.
Yeah.
And that's always the concern in Boston because it's been a problem. And it wasn't a problem when Ime was there. It was a smaller problem, I will say that. But it wasn't what got them defeated, And if Ime were still there, I would think their chances would be a lot better because coaching still matters. It matters a lot. And Indiana has a coaching edge in this series. I'm convinced of that. It's just not enough to overcome the talent gap.
All right. What about the Dallas-Minnesota series? What's the one matchup or situation you're going to watch with those two teams?
I want to see how they guard Luka and Kyrie, who they use on them, how they do it. Are you doing a lot of double teaming? They tend to not do that. They play straight up most of the time.
How much can they put Ant on Luka? Occasional, because you don't want to get him into foul trouble?
Yeah, I think they're going to do what a lot of teams do, and that's try different people. You like to go with a bigger guy. The forward who is all.
So it could be Daniels or Nikhil Walker.
Yeah, McDaniels is going to be the guy that's probably going to draw him most of the time. And then you got to say Edwards might. Can he play Kyrie? He is quick, and he gives Kyrie somebody big to pass and shoot over. All that's going to be really interesting. And then, are we going to see the same effort from Luka and Kyrie defensively that we saw before?
Yeah.
And who's going to guard Edwards?
Because really it was Dallas's defense that for long stretches carried them to that Oklahoma City series.
It did. Who do you think is going to guard Edwards for them?
That's a great question.
P.J. Washington?
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
P.J. Washington's been huge for them.
Yeah, he's been real good.
Those are clutch free throws he made too.
And Dallas has young bigs. I want to see how those young bigs stand
The rim protection is going to be outstanding on both sides in this series.
Yeah, it should be. You just want to see if Lively can stay out of foul trouble.
All right, we'll keep things rolling. Well, that's a rough transition from Paul to this. Nice work, Shacker. Nice work, my friend. We got some high fives to hand out. That's Dwight. I'm Chad. You got the Rip City Drive.
God, it's cold in here.
All right, Godfather. We'll kick things off with you. You got any high fives you want to hand out?
Yeah, I'd like to give one to Rick Carlisle. Just for getting his team that I didn't think would get out of the first round necessarily, getting him to the conference finals. Nice job.
I like Rick Carlisle. He's a cool dude. He looks like Jim Carrey, but a good coach, and he's been around the league for a long time, and a good dude. You like him. You've liked him for a long time.
Yeah, I think he's a good guy. Longtime president of the Coaches Association. He's a little goofy at times, but good guy.
In my experience, most head coaches in the NBA are a little bit goofy at times.
The job makes you that way, I think.
Mike Malone is definitely goofy at times. Yeah, most of the coaches, they're all a little bit weird.
Yeah, they are.
Thibodeau's a little bit strange.
Mm-hmm.
I could see how that job, trying to corral those guys, it's like herding cats, trying to get those guys on the same page and commit and do this and do that. The pressure, people criticizing you, people that don't coach or never have coached, telling you what they think about your job. Like, it would be maddening.
Yeah, and you're working 18 to 20 hours a day, probably, especially this time of year.
Shacker, you got any high fives you want to hand out?
Yeah, I want to give a high five to gas. Well, to the gas prices in Oregon, they've gone down 5 cents over the last week.
Really?
Yeah, I'm really fired. That's going into a holiday.
I give it to gas. I thought you were talking about Chad.
Oh. Yeah. Speaking of gas prices, I'm going on the road trip with Isaac this weekend out to Idaho.
Yeah.
I'll be spending some money on gas. He's driving the whole way there and the whole way back, which means I'm going to be white-knuckling it in the front seat.
Yeah, no naps for you in the passenger seat.
No, I have to pay attention, more attention than I would if I was driving myself.
Yeah, I bet.
Gosh.
Do you say things to him while he's driving? Do you kind of coach him at times? Or because it's not good if you do, probably. But
no, I only alert him to something if I really feel like it's necessary because he's pretty good. But you know, it's like 6 hours. It's like a 6 hour. What is the drive out there? 6 hours? Let's just take a quick peek here. Yeah.
The average price of gas in Idaho is about 80 cents cheaper than it is in Washington.
Well, of course.
I think it's like my concern is that, you know, he doesn't drive all the time. So you get, you know how it is with the situation where you, all of a sudden you're driving and you go for, 6 hours. That's a long time behind the wheel and you get a little bit tired. That's why he has promised me that he would get caught up on extra sleep this week.
How many times do you guys stop on the way over?
We stop, let's see here, in a couple, we'll stop a few times along the way.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a couple of spots that he likes to stop. We'll stop to get gas. We'll stop to get something to eat.
Yeah.
So he's got his whole shebang on where he wants to stop.
Do you have a favorite place to stop on the way over there?
We stop in those two towns. I'm trying to think of the names of them. Let's see here. We always stop in Pendleton.
Yeah.
And then we stop in LeGrand.
Oh.
And he's got a couple of, he's found a couple of local spots that he likes to go to get his hamburgers.
I was playing American Legion baseball for Jack Dunn, and we would go up to Yakima or wherever to play. We were all over the Northwest playing in a bus, in a charter bus, and we would stop all the time at Biggs Junction. You know Biggs Junction along the Columbia there?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we would stop. Inevitably, every time we stopped there, Jack would say, hey, didn't I tell you guys, all of you, that I'd get you to the Biggs someday?
Yeah, Isaac, he also likes to stop in the Gorge and have breakfast on the way out at that. I forgot the name of the place, but it's right there. It's the restaurant that's right by the Bridge of the Gods.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And they actually have
popular spot.
Yeah, they got some good food there, and they got, some good espressos. So I'm just like, look, just if you stop every once in a while so I can get a cup of coffee and just have everything I need to keep my peace of mind, that's fine. And then
bathroom break,
bathroom break, yeah. So he, and the thing is, I've done the drive now with him so much that, I know all Cabbage Patch Hill, there's some beautiful areas as you're driving out there. Going through the gorge is awesome. It's just a different experience when your son is driving the car. So,
yes.
But he'll do a good job. But, yeah, right now I'm looking at the drive time. There's a wreck right now. It's 6 hours and 40 minutes. It won't be 6:40 when we take off. It'll be like a 6-hour drive.
Mm.
and then you add in the stops, and so by the time it's like an 8-hour journey to get over there.
Yeah. What time do you leave in the morning?
He hasn't told me the exact time yet.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
He's doing the whole thing. That's great.
Yeah, so he's all over it. So and he's pumped. He's been putting out a countdown on social media to alert me. We're getting closer. We're just a few days away.
Did you give your high five? Did I miss it?
Oh, did I give a high five? I would like to give a high five to Nancy Salisbury.
What did she do?
I had such a blast with her over the weekend playing golf that I forgot to give her a high five yesterday, and so I'm making sure that she's getting love for what she did.
She lives for your high fives. I know that impresses her.
She always makes it. She does great things and makes it sound like it's no big deal, but to me, it's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I had a blast. So I appreciate you, Nancy. She got bonus.
Whoa!
All right, that's going to do it for us. Dwight and I are going to be back tomorrow with the Rip City